11 Proven Ways to Stop Being Toxic in Your Relationship. Do you want to know how to quit being toxic in a relationship? You are not alone in this. How many of you have been in toxic relationships or been accused of being toxic by your significant other? That number is nearly equal. Every tough relationship has one perpetrator and one victim. If you are any of these people, you have come to the right place. First, let me define a toxic relationship in simple terms. It's when a relationship physically and mentally drains you. When they're around, you're continuously dissatisfied. If you feel stifled, mistreated, underloved, undervalued, and everything about your relationship appears unpleasant, you are most likely in a toxic relationship. You still care for your lover, but your mind is flooded with negative thoughts. When asked for his thoughts on being a toxic person in a relationship, Dr. Aman Bansal, Ph.D., who specializes in relationship therapy and rational emotive behavior therapy, remarked, "Unfortunately, the toxic person feels they are always right and that they are completely alright. They believe they are in perfect health. The others are incorrect. When they go beyond the boundaries of their normal behavior, they will realize they are toxic. You will know you are the toxic one when people quit hanging out with you, when people make excuses to avoid meeting with you, and when people avoid you. You will start to suspect that something is awry someplace. Your selfishness will begin to affect all of your relationships," says Dr. Bansal. The goal of any romantic relationship is to make your spouse happy and cherished while also making you feel safe in their company. To feel appreciated, joyful, and at ease with them. It's usually easier to blame the other person for everything that has gone wrong between you two. It's a good idea to pause and ask yourself, am I toxic in my relationship? Because you need to look inside yourself rather than continually blaming your partner or the surroundings. There is no shame in admitting you are the toxic one and seeking advice on how to stop being a toxic girlfriend or boyfriend. It's the first step toward transformation. Dr. Bansal had a very profound perspective to share on the subject. When you realize you are the toxic one in the relationship and want to adjust your behavior, don't expect fast results. Instead, seek out change. Change does not ensure success. It guarantees momentum, he explains. If you want to find out if it's you or your partner, read the indications below. 1. Do you have a sense of superiority? When someone has a superiority complex, they have an exaggerated perception of themselves. They believe they are superior to others. A person with a superiority complex carries this mindset to their love interactions as well. They believe they are smarter, cleverer, and more important than their partner. If you have a superiority complex and proclaim your dominance in your relationship, you may be the source of the problem. It's a good thing you are asking questions like, am I toxic in my relationship? And how to quit being toxic in a relationship. This complex is most commonly found in those who attempt to conceal or hide their insecurities and feelings of inadequacy. It's difficult to live with someone who has a superiority complex. The one-sided view of oneself will eventually catch up with you. Whether you have this complex, now is the moment to ask yourself, am I toxic in my relationship? And see if it's damaging your bond with your spouse, as repairing a toxic relationship takes a lot of bravery and guts. 2. Do you have a tendency to manipulate things? Manipulation is commonly understood to include everything from gaslighting to lying to concealing information from your significant other. Using emotional manipulation on someone is an attempt to acquire authority over them. It's a mental game that equates to being a toxic person in a relationship. The ultimate goal is to use that authority to exert control over the other person. Stop manipulating your spouse if you want to stop becoming a toxic girlfriend or boyfriend. Stop manipulating the truth. If you make your significant other feel bad for voicing their worries, you are a skilled manipulator, and you should immediately begin asking questions like how to quit being toxic in a relationship or how to determine if you are toxic in a relationship. 3. Is the connection centered on you? This is the most appropriate response to your inquiry, am I toxic in my relationship? When your entire relationship revolves around your desires and needs, from food to movies to where you want to go out to dinner, it's a one-sided relationship. You give the order, and your partner follows. This is one of the warning indicators of a toxic relationship, in which you are the toxic one. Every relationship requires equality and respect, but when you make everything about yourself, you convey the message that your needs are more important than the other person's and that you don't value theirs. This could also become an excuse for not prioritizing them, leading to an unhappy relationship. 4. Do you like to be in charge? Mutual understanding is the foundation of healthy partnerships. They are founded on the principles of communication and compatibility. However, if you frequently tell your partner what to do and make decisions for them, you are a toxic person in a relationship. And you must learn to stop being a control freak. You can't use love to exert control over someone. If you're asking, am I toxic in my relationship? Consider whether you're trying to dominate your partner. If you answered yes, you are showing indicator of toxicity. If you force your partner to follow your rules, you'll need to figure out how to stop being toxic in a relationship. Control freaks will not only tell you what to do or make all of your decisions for you, but they will also dictate who you can be friends with and who you can hang out with. 5. Do you require constant attention? If you are someone who demands a lot of attention and time from your partner and becomes needy, you may be a toxic person in a relationship. This is sometimes referred to as heavy maintenance. Look for clues that she or he is a high-maintenance girl or boy. When you fall in love with someone, you don't have to make them the center of your universe or demand the same from them. It has the potential to make your spouse feel confined and smothered. If you want to learn how to quit being toxic in a relationship, you must recognize that they cannot meet all of your needs, and you should not expect them to. How does your toxic status affect your relationships? When you are toxic in a relationship, it is difficult for others to love you, rely on you, trust you, and find solace in you. You add a particular worth to all of your connections, and when poison begins to come in, the relationship is destroyed. Toxicity can also manifest as antagonistic conduct, being negligent, greedy, vengeful, or clinging, according to Dr. Bonsall. Being a toxic person in a relationship can generate a slew of issues because such a dynamic is tainted by a negative trend. Over time, the pattern becomes evident. You discover ways to create hurt, whether deliberate or unintended, and then use emotional manipulation to gain control of the situation. When you use such tactics, you risk permanently destroying your relationship. It will have an effect on the quality of your romance. It will have a negative impact on your relationship in a variety of ways, including lying, lack of trust, lack of communication, and all forms of emotional, verbal, and physical abuse. Even if a lot of harm has been done, it is never too late to change for the better. The path to transformation begins with answering an uncomfortable question: am I toxic in my relationship? Here are some expert-approved techniques for getting out of a toxic relationship. 1. Attend treatment. It may be difficult to recognize the nature of your toxicity without the assistance of mental health professionals. Only a therapist can assist you in unraveling your behavioral patterns and discovering the reasons for them. They will show you how to mend and become a better version of yourself, and also assist you in moving on from what has transpired in the past. All of these stages are essential to understanding how to stop being toxic in a relationship. Therapy becomes a critical part in this situation since the individual who thinks they're being poisonous in a relationship needs a neutral person to understand the complete scenario. Many couples have spoken out about how talk therapy aided their relationship. A licensed expert would know how to handle the problem and guide the individual in difficult situations, Dr. Bonsall explains. If you recognize the indicators that indicate you're the toxic one in your relationship and want to break your bad habits, Bonobology's panel of qualified and professional counselors is here to help. 2. Shift from blaming to comprehension. This is precisely what occurred in my prior relationship. There was a lot of finger-pointing, and I was always on the receiving end of it. When I was blamed for something, I took it as constructive criticism and sought to improve by understanding his points of view. When my ex-spouse got blamed for something, he refused to accept responsibility and took it as an insult. He'd accuse me of blaming him. Isn't the irony very humorous here? I discovered how damaging blame shifting is in relationships. If you want to know if you are toxic in a relationship, consider how you allocate blame. To learn how to stop being toxic in a relationship, you must learn to be more understanding and not take your partner's issues personally. Take a step back from the blame game and examine the entire problem from a different angle. 3. Take responsibility for your actions. If there's one thing I've learned from my relationships, it's how a simple act of taking accountability can change things for the better. The solution to how to quit being toxic in a relationship will come to you when you begin to accept responsibility for your acts and recognize that their reaction is a result of your actions. Every action has an equal and opposite response, as Newton stated. If you said something that harmed or offended your partner, own up to it. That is one approach to stop being a toxic person in a new relationship. Make apologies with your significant other as soon as you discover you did anything wrong. Every relationship is tested from time to time. Do not drag arguments out, apologize, and do not harbor grudges. 4. Show a desire in self-improvement. Look for opportunities for self-improvement. Compare your current location to where you were last year. Compare various types of progress, from financial to emotional and interpersonal. Everything contributes to your development as a person. If you don't perceive yourself growing in any element of your life, it's time to start. Ask yourself some critical questions. Am I stuck? Have I grown or evolved professionally or personally? Ask yourself why you aren't growing. What is holding you back from becoming a better version of yourself? Ask yourself what you're doing incorrectly and where you're being inefficient, Dr. Bonsall says. 5. Display affection. Have you ever considered why we love the way we do? It's because, most of the time, even subconsciously, we love our partners in the same way that we want to be loved. Each has an own manner of loving. Some women give extravagant gifts for their partners, while some men express their feelings without saying anything. After all, you both want to be loved by each other. And if you continue to be a toxic person in a relationship, neither of you will have the opportunity to give or receive love. 6. Express your concerns. If you're still wondering, why am I toxic and how can I fix it? Communication is the answer. Stonewalling will never fix any of your difficulties with your relationship. In fact, it will exacerbate the problem. It's difficult to figure out how to tell if you're toxic in a relationship. It's even more difficult to admit that you are the primary cause of your relationship's decline. You may modify the trajectory by discussing with your partner about it without fear of being condemned. Relationship communication issues are fairly prevalent. All you have to do is express honestly your concerns, difficulties, unhappiness, and irritation. But be careful with your words. In the spirit of an open dialogue, make sure you don't injure or insult your spouse. Open communication allows you to express yourself about what bothers you. It will assist you in no longer being a toxic girlfriend or boyfriend. 7. Develop empathy. Every healthy connection is built on empathy. Toxicity is just an expression of a lack of empathy in a relationship. When you learn to see things through your partner's eyes, you will no longer be a toxic person in a relationship. Try to put yourself in your partner's shoes and be empathetic. It will be tough to bond and create a meaningful relationship with your partner if you lack empathy. Questions like why am I toxic in my relationship? And how to stop being a toxic girlfriend/boyfriend will begin to fade as you grow empathy for others. Spending time with those less fortunate than you is one method to learn to create empathy. Spend time with folks who are differently abled or who are struggling to make ends meet. Even the most cutthroat would develop pity and kindness after spending time with unhappy people. Participate in cooking tasks or discover activities you've never tried before. Some people are so stern and unyielding that they will never feel empathy for anyone except themselves, Dr. Bonsall explains. 8. Release your ego. When you resolve to let go of your ego, you will understand how to quit being toxic in a relationship. A toxic individual is known to project a certain image. When they believe their image is under threat, they tend to get protective. Learn to set your ego aside. We are all flawed in some way. No human being can keep a flawless image all of the time. Forget about your ego in order to cease being toxic in a new or long-term relationship. Ego causes battles, and it's past time to let disputes take precedence over relationships. Nothing ruins a relationship like ego, says Dr. Bonsall. Ego is essentially a massive barrier that stands between two people. Nobody can tear down a wall that is too high and too sturdy. Nobody can even scale that wall to get to you on the other side. I come from a wealthy family, so I expect everything to go my way. I am an adult. I am in control of the connection. The only time you will know to let go of your ego is when that ego is destroying your relationship or has already done the damage. An egoistic person is unwilling to accept assistance. If he desires a job advancement, his ego will keep him from asking for it. An egoistic husband will refuse to seek assistance from his wife. A narcissistic wife will never request sex. 9. Assume good intentions. I'd like to discuss about the things I carried over from my previous relationship into my new one. When I got out of a toxic relationship, I became an entirely different person. I began to question everyone's good intentions. I developed a toxic relationship with my present spouse, who did nothing but love me. These negative ideas, as well as the frequent questioning of my partner's intentions in my current relationship, harm the foundation I had so carefully created in the hope of a better future for myself. Why am I being destructive in my relationship? I kept asking myself. I knew it was because I hadn't fully recovered from my traumas. If you continue to question your partner's intentions, you may begin to suspect that you are in a bad relationship. I realized I was still judging him through the lens of my previous relationship. When you assume your partner has bad intentions, you become distrustful of everything he or she does. I came to a halt and inquired as to what was going on, why I was toxic, and how I might fix this. I learned that if you hunt for the worst in people, you will find it. A person who is drowning in defects. However, assuming positive intent and looking for the best in people makes life easier and more serene. 10. Solicit feedback. Ask important stakeholders in your relationships for input. If you believe you are being toxic in a relationship, seek feedback from your partner, parents, or siblings. If you find yourself lost and in need of help, ask those who love you to help you find the missing pieces of yourself. People who care about you are aware of your personality. They will find out if you make mistakes in life or are unfair to yourself. All you have to do is reconnect and relive, Dr. Bonsall explains. 11. Respect your personal space. Making time for yourself and being alone is a crucial method to quit becoming toxic in a relationship. The majority of toxic people have low self-esteem. They project their toxicity onto others in order to improve their self-esteem. When you begin to practice self-love, you will discover how to quit being toxic in a relationship. Learn to take care of your own needs. Pay attention to and be aware of your toxic patterns. Focus on self-care and recovery. To begin, applaud yourself on asking the question, why am I toxic, and what can I do about it? It is both the first and most hardest step to take. And you've mastered it. If you focus on developing positive habits, the rest will follow.